Hi, everyone. How is everyone?
So far, so good.
Good. All right. So let me
Hello.
Hi. Okay. Kermit, I owe you an email. I haven't forgotten. I'm busy in the
Oh,
Christmas chaos.
yep. Totally understand.
Okay.
I'd forgotten you'd forgotten something. That's how
Okay,
busy
good. Then we all forgot. Yes, it's all forgotten. Okay, so we have Kelly, you keeping track here? Are we do we have a
We don't have a quorum yet.
okay. Laura, I will tell you this fun fact. So I, in the last couple of months, I was writing your name down and there's 2 H's in there. And then funny enough, randomly, because my father-in-law passed away a couple months ago, and I was looking at, I had to send his death certificate somewhere. And my husband's grandmother, her maiden name was Buchholz and from Iowa. Yes. And I remember you said you went to University of Iowa. Are you from Iowa?
Indiana.
Indiana.
Close.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I'm sure probably related somehow.
Somehow.
Yeah.
Just if it's spelled the same way, because there's a bunch of different ways to spell it, and people get it all mixed up all the time. So yes, probably.
Nice. Hi, Kelsey. Hi, Deb. Okay, that probably does it, right?
Does it? Yep.
Okay, good. Oh, I see my agenda didn't print, but I'll go by yours, Kelly. Well, first of all, thanks everyone for joining. So we will start the meeting, call the meeting to order. I see, Kelly, that you amended the minutes just slightly. So it looked like there was just in 2 areas, right? The Sustainable Business media awards, and then the high school update. Are there any, do you want to comment on that, or do you think?
I can show the amended minutes. I
Okay.
think. See. Oh, I just. Okay, these are the amended minutes, and I just did a few word changes under the Sustainable Middleton Award to clarify some things that Deb brought to my attention. I think I added that the businesses would be awarded at the Chamber of Commerce event, and the individuals and nonprofits would be awarded at a city council meeting. I didn't have that in there. There were a couple other word changes, and they were minor, and they're posted now to the public, to the minutes online.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes, or does anyone have any amendments? I guess we can start with whatever the group would like. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Seconded.
Did you second, Deb?
Somebody else seconded it in front of
Oh,
me.
Kermit. I was trying to figure out who. It was right in that area where you two are on the screen. Okay. So do we have a vote to all in favor of approving the minutes as is?
Aye.
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 Hi.
Okay, approved. Thank
Could
you.
you tell me who seconded? I'm sorry.
Kermit, no problem.
Okay, thank
I
you.
did.
Okay, so next up are the public comments. Robert, I see you have your hand up. Would you like to go first? I think yours was up first. Now I see Kevin's too, but why don't we go with yours first?
Thank you. My name is Robert Owen. I live at 1311 Middleton Street. I'm a grandparent of 2 small children who are gravely threatened by climate change. I'm here to ask this committee to update the energy section of the city's sustainable purchasing policy without delay. Despite the overwhelming passage of a decarbonization referendum by Middleton voters in November 2016, and enactment of city carbon reduction goals in 2018, the existing Hollow Energy SPP has no carbon-related goals, no electrification goals, no transitional or interim goals to encourage action, no rules as to what may be purchased, no mechanism to review staff decisions to buy carbon-polluting vehicles or equipment, no departmental goals for carbon reduction progress, no departmental or staff accountability mechanisms, no emissions reporting, no performance standards, and an exception clause big enough to accommodate a semi. Because the current SPP does not require the staff to do anything, much of the staff has done exactly nothing to reduce the city's carbon footprint. From an administrative standpoint, the toothless SPP fails to empower the city administrator to get the staff to stop unnecessarily burning fossil fuels. The Common Council publicly proclaims it is cleaning up city carbon emissions on the one hand, while on the other hand, telling staff in the SPP that they don't have to take any steps to clean up if they don't want to. This is hypocrisy and poor public policy. While Kelly Hilliard continues to do a lot, notably with solar microgrids and charging infrastructure of late, the inadequate SPP has contributed to a leave it to Kelly climate among city staff. For instance, in the area of accounting for city emissions, other departments are leaving this all to Kelly. In truth, it would be better to have the departments do annual reporting on city emissions with reports signed by senior managers that would remind them that reducing emissions is part of their jobs. Overwhelming Kelly with reporting and other obligations that should belong to line departments handicaps her performance of other important tasks like grant writing. This organizational harm flows directly from the Hollow SPP, which fails to inform city staff that reducing carbon emissions is part of all of their jobs. The urgency of addressing climate change has increased since 2018. The city should decarbonize by 2035, not 2040. Such a change should be incorporated into and enacted by Common Council in a new SPP. Please draft a new energy SPP, approve it at a January meeting, and put an SPP amendment resolution before the Common Council for consideration and approval no later than February. I'd be happy to assist your redrafting efforts. Thank you all for your volunteer service.
Thank you. Kevin, you are up next.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kevin Spittler, and I've lived in Middleton for the past 15 and a half years. Approximately 18 months ago, I joined a small group of other Middletonians as part of a 350 Middleton Community Climate Solutions Working Group. We're very concerned about climate change, and in particular, what Middleton is doing about it. As you likely know, in 2016, and Bob just mentioned, in 2016, Middleton residents voted overwhelmingly for the city to take proactive measures to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels and emissions they create, those that contribute to climate change. In 2018, the City Council unanimously passed Resolution 2018-32 that further cemented specific goals for the city and timeframes for meeting them. In between those two events, in 2017, the city adopted a sustainable purchasing policy, which laid out some of the quote, best practices to be followed by city staff, but not policy requirements, unquote. The general guidance in that document provided some excellent objectives for staff decision-making, including consider the durability and expected useful life of each product option, rather than the product with the lowest initial cost. Select products that are expected to provide the greatest long-term value to the city rather than the product with the lowest initial cost. Seek to purchase products and services that are produced locally and or produced from local vendors. Give preference in purchasing decisions to cost-effective, environmentally preferable product options. And also charges the city administrator or his or her designee with steps to standardize its purchasing processes and where beneficial, promote consistency across departments and types of products that are purchased. And city staff supposedly will support the city's sustainability goals by participating in the successful implementation of this policy by seeking to align purchasing practices with the policy by identifying and overcoming challenges to implementation of the policy. A lot of gobbledygook there, but this was good. However, unfortunately, the existing SPP has never been implemented. It provides easy exemptions, as Bob mentioned, and offers no metrics by which to measure progress. So many departments really have never changed their purchasing practices until our small group became vocally active and some key sustainability committee members developed some clout. Now the council is more aware of the city's policies. Departments are starting to pay closer attention to the issue. The city has ordered its first 2 hybrid vehicles, and the city will build an EV charging infrastructure, hopefully in 2023. But the city still needs to formally institutionalize purchasing procedures to hold staff accountable and change a culture that has put us behind other nearby progressive governmental bodies like Dane County and Madison. We need a detailed policy that requires consideration of the immediate purchasing environment, but also when it's flexible enough to apply to future circumstances, particularly as the technology changes. Incorporation of compliance into all job descriptions and regular performance evaluations, tracking of emerging emissions reducing options and equipment alternatives by staff members, and documentation of selection rationale, including life cycle cost comparisons, and related notification and/or training for current and new employees. Before the council changes over in April and Mayor Barr leaves, we think there's a window to bolster the SPP for approval. However, we recognize that it is the holidays and MSC members have limited time and expertise in preparing such a document. So I am hereby offering our services to draft a replacement for related portions of the existing SPP for committee consideration, and hopefully have that to you by mid-January. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay, I believe that concludes our public comments. So we will go on to the staff report, Q&A. Who has questions for Kelly? How about this? What questions do we have for Kelly? Kelly, do you want to give, do you feel like there's anything that needs explaining, brief synopsis, or, are we feeling pretty good about this? Oh, Shreya, did you have your hand up? No, okay.
I think it's nothing's brand new. It's just more of the same and further explanation of what's happened over the last month, I guess. I've had some really fruitful conversations with Dane County and some other municipalities about their workflow and how they run projects like solar and charging infrastructure, and how they structure it, because it's one thing to get a grant and even know what you need, but it's another thing to coordinate all the other departments and understand the workflow through public works and the technical aspects of things. So like in Sun Prairie's case, they do design for year 1 and then they do the construction in year 2. So they take a full 2 years for their, solar projects and electrification projects. So just learning how other communities are doing it. It's all over the place, and everyone's, I think, learning how to manage these new technologies. And then with the lead times on the supply chain and components and labor shortages, it's really holding everything up for a lot of city projects. So it's somewhat frustrating. So there's just a lot of coordination, which is my job.
Okay, thank you. Dick?
Yeah, I perused the ooh. I perused the staff. Hang on a second. I perused the staff report, and I'm not clear on what progress was made on the application for the 150,000 project of getting low-income housing units identified so that we can contact them. Our light bulb program is totally dependent on us moving forward on that. So Kelly, can you better define where we are in this whole thing?
Sure. Council wanted to see the eligibility criteria, which is an important document because if we want to make this process transparent and make it fair, and so that people understand who can apply for the money and why, you know, certain neighborhoods might be targeted as opposed to other neighborhoods, because we have limited money and we can't do every building. So we created a set of maps based on census data, based on average median income, and a host of other layers of data that you can layer on top of one another. And then Elevate and Sustain Dane have done these types of projects before, so they wrote up some draft eligibility criteria, things that you went over in the last meeting, so you're aware of what many of those are. They edited that based on your great feedback and Workforce Housing's feedback, and then council wanted to see that document. So we took that document to council on December, I think it was 6th or 7th. And they had still a lot of questions, and it narrowly passed 4-3 for us to proceed with the project as the eligibility criteria was written. And then we had another stakeholder meeting with Middleton Outreach Ministries and the Senior Center and Sustain Dane and Elevate and Alder Kuhn and our outreach intern, and then also the Healthy Babies Bright Futures folks who were sort of adjacent partners in this. And we went over the eligibility criteria again and the mapping and data that MOM has and data that Senior Center has. And talked a lot more about it. So that's being firmed up now, but council wanted to hear from Elevate and Sustain Dane to ask them questions directly. So they're giving a presentation tomorrow night at the Common Council meeting at 7:30 to explain the project, and also for council to have an opportunity to ask those community partners about the project. And you know, they have some of the similar questions that you all have about maintaining a lower rent for energy savings to reduce energy burden, is one of their main questions, which is everyone's, you know, concern and issue and interest in the project. And then, so then in January, we can move forward with the application because it did pass council, the eligibility criteria. We have an application form that they drafted. I think it's still being slightly tweaked by community partners. We're sending it around a bit. And then some outreach materials. And then we will open up the application to a census tract that's near Allen Boulevard, west of Allen Boulevard, and it'll be defined by streets so that people understand what neighborhood we're targeting this first round. And then when we get applicants in, then we'll run those applicants through the eligibility criteria to see if they're good matches. And Elevate would like to do about 12 building assessments where you actually go into the building, look at all the systems, evaluate the building based on the eligibility criteria, talk to the building owner, see if it's a good fit. And then after doing like 12 building assessments, then narrow it down to 6 buildings. And then, you know, go through the process of hiring the contractor, doing outreach with the owner and the tenants, and doing the work. I think that the actual contractor getting into the buildings will happen at the end of the first quarter, maybe. I think all the work I'm hoping will be done in the first 2 quarters of 2023. I think the application process will take, I'm guessing, about a month. We'll have a deadline for the application process, and then we'll keep it after the deadline passes. Then we'll leave it open on a rolling basis if we don't have so many applicants. So all those things we discussed in our last stakeholder meeting. That's where it stands. So it's sort of a slow process to get it off the ground because we don't want to we want to make sure that everyone is okay, the policymakers are okay with us to proceed, and that the eligibility criteria looks good, especially to our community partners who work in these communities and with these neighborhoods quite a lot.
Follow up, please, just real quick. A 4-3 vote is not a very convincing vote. What were I didn't understand, what were the objections of the 3 people that did not vote for moving this forward?
I think one of the main reasons was because Dan Ramsey was not present at this Common Council meeting, and he's had a real interest in this project. He's a building owner himself. He's was involved in some of the stakeholder meetings. And I think that out of consideration for him, a couple members wanted to wait until he was back to vote on the eligibility criteria. I think Kathy Olson is, would like to see the money used for the ARPA funds being used for other city projects, and still has a lot of questions about the project. So I'm hoping that by having Elevate and Sustain Dane at the meeting tomorrow, giving a formal presentation, that will help clear up some questions, and then they can answer the questions. I've been fielding a lot of questions over the last 3 or 4 council meetings, and I feel like I have a good handle on the project, but I haven't actually been in the buildings in prior projects. So I think that's will help when Elevate's there and they can speak to the actual work they've done in other communities. They've been in the buildings and can explain it.
Yeah, one criticism that I have is that the eligibility is for as low as 2 units. Well, that's a duplex. And I think of a duplex as kind of a long ranch home. And I think of the effort to make that energy efficient for the number of people or families feels like it's not getting the most bang for the buck. And last meeting, we did suggest going higher than just 2 to 4 living units as a project up to even 8, because the boxier the thing, and I've seen units that are 8, like 4 on one floor and 4 above it, where you get more of a boxy effect. And from an energy efficiency point of view, where you have common walls, you can get a lot more, for the amount of money, it would seem like you could get more energy efficiency done. So I'm just, did we get beyond the 2 to 4 criteria that was originally proposed? And then I'll stop asking.
Yes, we did. I think it's 2 to 8 now, and then anything over 8 is eligible for PACE financing. So the reason we kept it in a lower unit number is because it captures a gap in naturally occurring affordable housing that has funds available through different financing mechanisms. So it's now 2 to 8 units. I would love to do, 200 unit buildings. We don't have the funds to do that. But I hope that we can find some buildings that have more than 2 units. But the 2 unit buildings are also important to understand how to do the work in those smaller units. But I think everyone wants, to be as efficient with the money as possible and have the greatest impact.
Okay, I'm done.
Moving to Dominic, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Kelly, a quick question on item number 6, what presents to me as a transaction of solar array purchasing from the MG&E. Could you outline kind of the scope of that project and your role in that project? I guess, and the context here is it feels like something that maybe someone in the finance department should be just taking off of your plate completely. As I understand it anyways. So I'd love to hear from you on that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, how will I purchase that that solar array? I have no idea. So I think it will be mostly through the finance department. And MGE did reach out to us this week and ask if we wanted the final, I think, sort of There's a term for it, and because I'm not a finance person, I don't have it on the tip of my tongue, but they were going to get us the final numbers for that, and hopefully it will be a simple transaction. MGE is happy to do it. They think we're getting a good deal. I mean, of course, you know, the seller will say that, but I think it's a good deal we didn't have to pay the upfront costs. The tax credits were monetized by an entity that could get the tax credits where we couldn't have if we had put the solar on the PD ourselves, because we're not eligible for the tax credits. And so it was a cheaper system. They did all the work, got everything installed, did all the project management. So I see this as a good way to get a sizable solar array in ownership of the city, so we can take full benefit. Because right now MGE claims that solar for their own fuel mix credits, or, you know, when they say we're, you know, 17% renewable, part of that is the PD solar array, very tiny part, but we'll be able to then have that offsetting our electric bills, and it will be owned by us.
Quick question, Kelly, why do we know why MGE wants to sell it or will sell it? You know, so
I think
know-
that was, oh, I sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, go ahead.
I think it was always the intent. That array was put on the roof of the PD sort of as a way to sweeten the deal for their MGE's first shared solar array, which is on top of our municipal operations building, the MOC, but not the new solar array that's on the cold storage recycling center building. There's two buildings out at the MOC, and one of the buildings where the offices are, MGE put solar on top of that roof, but they own that solar and they sell the solar through their shared solar program. And it was the first time that they had done that. It was their sort of pilot project for that shared solar program. And so we leased that, you know, roof space to them. And then as part of that deal, they put the solar array on the PD. And that's not, the PD solar is not part of the shared solar program, but the intent was always to offer the option for the city to buy that array once the tax credits were monetized, which takes about, I think, 7 years.
Okay, got it. I'm going to interject here too quick. Kermit gave me a very nice suggestion here that, and I didn't see it, but we have an Alder, Kathy Olson, who is now on our call, just to acknowledge. Welcome, Kathy. Thank you for joining, and just to let everyone know.
Thank you. Thank you. Just here to listen and learn. Thanks.
Okay, good. Yeah, great. Okay, so I think that's helpful. What other, Dominic, did that answer your questions?
To some extent, I maybe I'll follow up with Kelly in an email. I guess one of my goals is to ensure that projects are being driven by the appropriate team. Just because there is solar involved in the title of a project does not mean, in my mind, that it necessarily has to be driven by Kelly necessarily. So maybe I'll follow up a little bit further on the scope of this project specifically to inform my opinion and feedback that I'll offer elsewhere. But no, I think that was sufficient for this meeting. Thank you, Kelly.
Okay, thank you. Dick, go ahead.
Yeah, there was some emails, I think, Christy, you wrote, and Kelly, to Dane County about why is MG&E not moving on getting our street lights, traffic lights systems converted over to LEDs. And there was some great nudging emails by you two, and I appreciate that. And I don't know if you got any feedback on that, but this has been a really frustrating thing that you know, over 2/3 or 2/3 of our streetlights are still of the older incandescent bulbs, and I'm just wondering what we can do to try to get the MG&E and the broader community to do something.
We are meeting, I believe, in early January. The meeting hasn't been set, but I've done a doodle poll to meet with MGE and Dane County and several other municipalities to discuss how the next steps for moving forward for MGE to convert multiple communities to LED lights. Part of it's they don't have like a workforce to do all the work very quickly. They've been doing it sort of as they burn out, they replace them with a small staff. And then the other thing we'll need to talk about is to reevaluate the rates for the LED electricity, because it'll be much less electricity that will be used. And so we need advantageous rates to help us gain the financial benefits of that. But as all like bureaucratic things, what I've heard is that MGE will do a rate case next year. I don't know if that's like at the end of 2023 or early 2024. I think it's in the end of 2023 to look at that. But it's not something that we can just have a meeting and then they change the rates. It's such a long process.
Who's gonna have to buy the streetlights, or is Middleton going to need to buy the replacement streetlights for our city, or are they still gonna be purchased by MG&E, and then whatever the electricity rate will be used to pay them off over a period of time?
Well, MG&E will own them, and then I'm guessing, I don't really know how this is going to work, but I'm guessing maybe that the municipalities can come together and do a joint grant with some of the federal funding coming down over the next year or two, or the OEI grants to fund large chunks of the labor that it would take to quickly change out many lights at once, or, in a phased way or something. We think that there will be funding for this, maybe through the bipartisan infrastructure bill. I don't know about IRA, but maybe, or even through OEI. Like there's grant sources. And one thing we are talking about more and more as Dane County municipalities, instead of each sustainability director writing a grant, it takes a long time to write grants and organize yourself to do projects in your own community. It may be beneficial to go together as a whole county and do major projects as a county, things like the streetlight conversion, things like EV infrastructure that's rolled out countywide. Instead of all of us figuring it out and working within our own staffs, we should be doing this stuff together as larger projects.
Okay, thank you. Kelsey.
Hi, Kelly. I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. When an old incandescent streetlight burns out, do they replace it with a new LED light, or do they replace it with another incandescent?
They replace it with an LED now.
Oh, okay. So Dick, does that make you feel better that the bulb is going to the end of its life and we're using all of it up instead of just throwing away something that still has life in it?
Well, I guess we have so many streetlights that I just don't have a sense that we've been talking about this since I've been on the committee, which is going on 5 years now. And it just feels like that there's been no movement on getting most of the community's lights switched over. And I know that incandescent doesn't last forever. So the question is, okay, in a red, yellow, green light bulb thing, one bulb burns out, does that mean they change the whole fixture, or because I don't think you're going to put a LED bulb back in that same fixture, are you? I mean, you're putting a whole new system in, right?
I don't know the technical aspects of how it's done, but I do know that it's better to change all of the incandescents right away, even if we had just put them in, because they use so much energy. Streetlights are one of the biggest energy users in our city. And so we need to get them all converted. If we converted them all at once or quickly, we would save a lot of energy much quicker than a lot of other energy projects. We've had all of this evaluated by Slipstream, and we have all the energy data to back it up, to know where our biggest energy uses are, and streetlights is in the top 3. So if we could get that done, it would make a significant dent in our carbon emissions. But every community is in that same boat. They all have that same data, and we've all been working on it, but there's not a really simple fix, I guess. A quick fix.
Thanks.
Okay. So thank you. Anyone else have questions for Kelly? Dominic, you have another one?
Just very briefly, and
Yep.
to kind of follow up, Kelly, maybe you can't answer this right now, but is there anything that we as the committee can do to help coordinate between and among different municipalities in the county and otherwise towards sharing resources in grant writing and otherwise? It does seem like kind of a force multiplier, and especially for something that seems so obvious as the streetlights. It's just one anecdote. I think it's worth spending a few calories trying to push towards that. So if there's anything that we can do, we would love to support that, I would imagine.
Can we write a letter in that line of thought of Dominic's? Can we vote on writing a quick letter that we support the transition to LEDs, Kelly? And that we would like the transition to happen as soon as possible? I mean, would that be helpful, or would that be not helpful at this time?
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't think it would hurt. One thing be kind of cool is if all the committees and all the municipalities got together and wrote a joint letter that would equal, like 50, 60 people in the communities saying we all support this conversion. So let's find a workable solution so that municipalities can convert this. What needs to happen? I do think some of it is waiting on the funding sources, which will make all this easier sell for all the cities, rather than taking 500,000 out of capital. It might be that we'll have that money from the bipartisan infrastructure law, and then all the cities can get it accomplished. Same way with EV charging infrastructure community-wide.
Maybe it would be helpful to have the will there, the push there before the money comes in too. And I want to, Kermit's got his hand up, so I'm sure you have something helpful to add on this, Kermit.
Yeah, I was just going to point out and ask that the question of how to replace them, what to replace them with, and how quickly is, in the world of sustainability considerations, always more nuanced than we should replace everything right now and get them on LEDs. I mean, it might be that once you review the embodied carbon and the cost of, accelerating purchasing because supply chains are so screwed up, prices are really through the roof now, as opposed to if we pace it. So I'm just aware that we should not rule out complicating factors that would inform a decision as to whether we want to say replace it right away, or we want this to be done in the most carbon efficient, energy efficient way, and acknowledge that those factors need to be part of the final decision and the engineering essentially of the process.
Okay,
And
Dick,
I don't know, Kelly, whether
sorry.
you've
Keep going.
gotten any taste or flavor of those factors being discussed yet, or whether that's something that might still need to be done.
Dick, you have a comment?
I mean, I appreciate what Kermit said, and my point is that we've been discussing it since I've been on the committee for 5.5 years now, and hardly any action's been taken. And I recognize that we're not going to get them all done at once. I just wanted to see that we're moving on it rather than letting MG&E decide the pace. I think, Kelly, you said you were going to meet on this in January. Is that right? And I guess rather than writing a letter now, just knowing, okay, there's going to be a meeting with Dane County and some other communities with MG&E, maybe at the next meeting in January, after this meeting, we'll have a staff update, and then we'll make a decision about how we want to go. So that's where I'm at. As far, I'm not interested in writing a letter here when there's a meeting already set, but let's find out what needs to happen and then make a decision. Does that seem good, Kermit?
Yeah, I agree. And if Kelly can take some of these comments and questions with her into that meeting to hopefully get some feedback for us, that would be appreciated.
I think one issue with this is that Monona did a analysis of cost and payback. And with the current rates of LED, once you switch the LED lights, MGE doesn't necessarily change your rate, or there's something about the rate that it wasn't advantageous to spend as much money to change them quickly. If they don't have a rate change, then the payback wasn't even there. It was just a ton of money. And so it's like you need to negotiate with the utility first to change the rate. And you can, yes, you can like do a few this year and do a few that year, but you may get a benefit from waiting for a year and then doing it all at once, where you get the bulk savings of buying them all and the labor all at once. Like it's a logistical thing that I personally, singularly, I don't think can figure out. It's got to be something that we work with the utility on. Other municipalities will be involved. We need to make sure we have the funding source. And some of the stuff is bureaucratic and really frustrating, but we have a lot of projects going on right now. So it's like, yeah, I want to do it all, everyone. I want to do all of it. But it's like I can't just move the LED light thing forward in a month because I want to. There's more to it than that.
Quickly, can you explain the rate business? The rate is not changing. We're not talking about the rate of electricity use. I mean, if you cut your electricity use to 1/3, then you should be paying less. So you're talking about the rental of the units as the rate?
Yeah.
Or
I think it's maybe it's the rental of the utility pole that we pay for. Something, I don't know. I mean, I should know that more. I've been told several times, and I have many email threads that are very complicated, and it hasn't stuck to explain it. I'll try to clarify it.
Yeah, after your upcoming meeting, we'll know a lot more and answer these questions. Okay.
Okay, thank you. We have Kermit.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Sorry, thank you. One of the issues that comes up in the wonderful world of electrical utilities is the rates. It's not just you pay so many cents per kilowatt hour, but what rate structure do you have? How much do you get charged just for the privilege of being connected to the utility? And that then varies, and within it, cost of maintaining the wires and the transformers, etc. So I don't have specifics for the city's street lighting rate structure or rate plan, but I would very much suspect that there are some base charges that are built in. So even if you reduce your electricity consumption to 0, you're still paying a significant chunk of change. And that's where the rate plan needs to be renegotiated to reflect the benefit of getting a higher efficiency lighting unit in. And anyways, so I'm just acknowledging, identifying the issue. I don't have the specifics myself either. And as I think Dick was commenting, Kelly will hopefully be able to get some insight during this upcoming meeting.
Okay, thank you. If that's it that was a good summary, Kermit. And if people don't mind, I would love to move on to the sustainable purchasing plan update. So that's Lisa and I's, I guess, subcommittee, but this is a group discussion, definitely. And I've had a chance to review the existing purchasing plan. And I think it's, I'll just speak my comments here quick first, that I do agree with the public comments at the beginning with Kevin and Bob that, you know, it is a little bit vague. It's now 5 or 6 years old. You know, I think the challenge that I run into with this is that, you know, with the vagueness and yes, there's exceptions, but it also both times here, kind of in the second page and then at the end, points it back to, you know, the city administrator and the department heads. And I do not want to just keep, you know, as they say, punting it around. But you know, and I want to do what I can, but we're not the bosses of anybody, you know. And I did read, Kelly sent a couple of helpful items to, or reading material to Lisa, and I don't know who else was on that email, but there was here, I can find it here really quick. Maybe I didn't keep it up. Oh, the National Association of State Procurement Officials actually has what I think are some good kind of best practices of doing this. And none of us are, you know, purchasing experts. And there are people who their jobs are, you know, they are purchasing experts. And that's not us. The one thing I really do agree with in here, though, in this National Association is, you know, implement strategies to garner more green. And one of the things that speaks really loudly to me is the educate versus mandate. And for me, I definitely would even encourage or increase it to educate, motivate, and versus mandate. But at the same time, we need to know what we're educating and trying to motivate people for. And some of those things are specifics, you know, and some of them are like electric things and energy sections. They're not really in here. That, you know, things have adapted, but there are definitely some things in here that are I see as still relevant, like buying, you know, office paper, copy paper that is used, that's used as post-consumer recycled paper, or that's from an FSC forest, that's not just a clear-cut virgin forest, you know, things like that. But I when I talked with Kelly about this a little while ago, you know, it's hard to know what to kind of motivate and educate about when we don't know where things are at now. You know, we know there's been a real big focus on, you know, the EVs and things like that. But there's so much more to this and that. And so one of the things Kelly and I discussed is, and I asked about, well, you know, what is purchased? Where's the list of what's purchased? And so I think that would be helpful. And, you know, I do think this is kind of a big animal. So I'm very much looking forward to input from people. Laura.
Hi, just as you were talking, one question, since you said you were interested in more the educate versus mandate, have there been any educational meetings? I guess this might be going to Kelly, for staff to, instead of just saying, all right, you guys have to do this now, explain why it matters, why we want to focus on these things and the actual impact. Have there been any educational meetings where either someone came in and explained it, whether it's a professional or even someone from the committee?
No, not since I've been here, but I think things have been a little topsy-turvy during COVID when people were in and out of the office and there was a lot of staff turnover. Like right now, and then the city administrator left, and we've had a lot of turnover in our admin department. So no, there hasn't been since I've been here.
Okay. Kermit.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in part just going to offer that when the plan was first introduced, as I recall it, there was a rollout with some training attached to it. But as Kelly points out, there have been so many changes since then that the awareness and engagement on that plan is, as we're observing and experiencing, virtually negligible. So that's just responding to that question. Basically nothing recently and nothing in time to make a difference for the current staff. As far as the idea that Christie brought up of perhaps taking advantage of an existing kind of like best practices policy that might be available on the shelf somewhere, like the I forget what the name of the group was, Chris, that you're mentioning, but I think that that's probably a resource where we can maybe avoid reinventing the wheel and get things moving a little bit faster than if we, even starting from what we have in the Middleton plan. I think the current SPP that is, as has been noted, deficient in a variety of ways that I'd like to think others have dealt with in the course of trying to solve the problem on their own. And again, you know, a industry-wide solution, I guess, that may have come up by some professional organization like Christy was mentioning might be a very helpful way to go.
Thank you. One of the things I want to actually read the very last paragraph again, or a little bit, not again, but a little bit more of it here. So this was published on March 1st, 2017. You know, and it says, while the city uses a decentralized purchasing process, the city administrator and or his designee, her designee will gather information from department heads in order to provide annual qualitative reports to the Common Council on the city's progress and challenges in complying with the standards and guidelines stated in this policy. You know, I mean, that was, now we're talking almost 6 years ago. And I find the word qualitative interesting, that there's no quantitative, you know, meaning no numerical type, or not a lot. So, you know, I think both is necessary, some, you know, firm numbers, but also qualitative. What do people think? Are people excited about this? Are people worried about this? Are they feeling anxious? You know, whatever it is. So I don't know. I feel like the first thing might be for us to meet with, you know, maybe it's a couple of us or something, to meet with Brian and say, how can we help you with this? You know, here's where it is now. You know, here's what we'd like to do. We'd like to do some of these energy things and get more of these things implemented. You know, how can we help do that? That's my thought. You know, and using the other resources. Dick.
Well, I really like what you just said, because I'm kind of tired of Bob and Kevin giving the same public comment every meeting, and, you know, for the last number of months. And I think it's a big deficiency. And quite frankly, I wouldn't know how to move forward with it, but we do have a new city administrator. I think Christy, you and Kelly, and maybe one other person you might identify. Laura, you seem like you're interested in this. Try to find some time to meet with the city administrator and to say, hey, we're having a lot of public comments about it. As a committee, we're very concerned about it. And how do you, as a new city administrator, feel like we can make progress on this? And it feels like that kind of communication we can really help move the ball forward, rather than us trying to write a new plan and ram it down somebody's throat without having had a chance to discuss it and let them know that, hey, this is something we need to do and we want to do it, and we will do it, but we want to work with you.
Agree. And then maybe, thank you, Dick. And then maybe we start with Brian and then we go to the department heads. But, you know, I definitely want, if we do this, I want to do it in a way that is, I don't know if we can eliminate all kind of threatening feelings, but I don't want this to be a threat. Like we're coming in to be the big brother here. I mean, we're just not going to, my experience is that we're just not going to get very far with that. They know the pressure's on, but we want to work with them in a collaborative way. We really do. And I really believe that that's how we're going to make the most progress. Laura.
Well, kind of along those lines, it seems to me that in a way, Kelly kind of answered that question by saying there's been a bunch of staff turnover, and that it the old SPP isn't really working, that it could be that they're just kind of unaware of what's required, what
there's a
we're
lot to
trying to
do.
do.
Yeah,
So then it seems to me that, again, this kind of goes along with a lot of other stuff. It's just a communication issue that, so that it doesn't seem, I mean, I need to understand how, I guess, city government works. I mean, is there a standard thing when all the department heads kind of get together and talk about these type of things, or is it kind of piecemeal? Or, I mean, is there ever a time where we could come in and just kind of explain stuff, like provide that awareness and communication?
yeah, I mean, I like that idea. It seems like there is not, am I understanding, Laura? It's a good question. My understanding is that there's not, like a regular purchasing meeting, for example, or there's not a lot of, which can be a really good thing, not too many meetings. Some organizations, or entities, whatever, have just so many meetings all the time that people are just always in meetings and don't get anything done. It seems like Brian maybe is taking the more stance of, let's just, try to minimize the meetings, but so people can get their work done. So I think it might require separate meetings. I'm not sure Kelly can answer that, but also I would like to build on what you said, go in with the educate, and motivate part, but also a very big thing that I would want to be a part of it, very clear and very seriously, is that we want their input. We want maybe some of them want to do these things already. Maybe there are challenges we are not aware of. So listening, understanding, learning needs to be front and center about what we're trying to do there too. So that's my thought on that. This maybe is a shorter discussion that those are the next steps, unless people have other ideas. Kelly, any input, any feedback on that discussion?
Well, I had an idea after talking to other municipalities about, I've asked them, do you have a sustainable purchasing plan? And they don't seem to have that specifically. One thing that Sun Prairie does, they've just started to do, and they ran this through their committee and got it approved, is whenever they procure equipment, whether it's solar panels or some other kind of equipment, they require now to put alternate bids into the bid documents to get the pricing for, the solar option or renewable energy option or the greener option, so that even if it ends up being that they don't go with that, they have the price, they have the bid ready to go. And I would need to work on that with Public Works. That's something that I would need help with, how to write those. But Sun Prairie's already has that language. So I was thinking of looking through that and bringing that to committee in the future, because that's just a direct way to make sure that the city's always considering all of these bigger purchases. It's not the office purchases necessarily.
Right. It's, that's a good point.
And it's not a policy, it's not a sustainable purchasing policy, but it's just how they do procurement. So I think, we could look at those ways. It doesn't have to just be in a plan. In some ways, I'd rather embed it into how you do your work.
Yes. What I would like to hear from them quick, and then you, Dominic, is, what do they think would be very cool? I mean, there's some real big opportunities here for the city in terms of, things. I can write press releases, if they can, with all the proper approvals, by the way, nobody get worried. But, we could, if they have something really cool and then another department has something really cool and somebody else, we can connect these dots. Then maybe we do an announcement about the city, and then that helps tourism, and that helps, these different things. So, I think that's just a matter of starting to have discussions and learning. Dominic.
Yeah, just very briefly, I completely agree with Dick's suggestion to have a sit down with Brian at the head of this to see how we can be most effective. And I also just want to say, Kelly, I love that idea. I think one of the challenges that we have is a challenge of education. I think that it's not always the case that staff, I like to assume that it's not the case that staff are intentionally choosing unsustainable, products when they're making purchases. But sometimes we all choose what we're familiar with. And if Sun Prairie's policy sounds like it is actively educated, while it is, part of that process, they can specify what they're familiar with, but then they can also specify something as an alternate and have the opportunity to learn about that through that specification process. It's kind of two birds, one stone. You're additionally pulling in cost information. So when you're planning in the future, it's a little demystified that way. You know what you can and should budget for. Not necessarily advocating for that to be pulled into the SPP explicitly. I don't think it's a bad idea. I'm very interested in that approach.
Okay. Are there certain people who would like to join the meetings? The meeting with Brian and other, or do you just want me to, we can do it offline too?
I see Kermit's hands up.
Yeah, but Kermit, why is your hand up? Do you have a comment or you, I think you had your
Yeah,
hand up
I
before.
have, I actually is more a comment than adding another meeting.
Yeah.
So I think lining up the meeting, maybe offline is maybe more efficient.
Got it.
But as far as the comment, I was just going to recall when Joe Parisi was addressing the Common Council and as Dane County Executive, I'm recalling he was given a question like, well, how do you do this or get, things purchased that make sense? And what I'm recalling, he said, as I recall, was the default is the green option, the sustainable option. Deviations from that need to be justified as variances. And so I think in terms of a policy principle, that it could be it would help make things easier if the default, instead of having to justify doing it in a more sustainable, renewable, energy efficient way, we make the default that way, the sustainable option, and say, okay, now if you insist on doing it with diesel or doing it with virgin Amazonian forests products for your furniture, for your office paper, you got to justify that and justify it explicitly. So that's the thought that I offer, that I think is something we could get additional depth, I guess, or detail from the county to help inspire and give a good example of an alternate approach.
Great point. Okay. I think if there are no other comments on this issue, we can move forward. Let's move forward to Saltwise. Do we have Allison Madison on?
No, we have Deb Weitzel.
Oh, Deb. Hey, hi.
Allison is in Europe, so she didn't realize there was so many hours difference between there and here, and it would have been 3 a.m. or something. So anyway, speaking of educate and motivate, this is what the Saltwise initiative is all about. The problem is that anytime rock salt is left behind after the snow is melted, it means that the salt was over applied. So extra salt doesn't increase public safety, it does degrade infrastructure and freshwater resources. And as it turns out, Pheasant Branch Creek has been identified as the top contributor of chloride to Lake Mendota. So what's the solution? We need to educate citizens, property owners, and applicators. Saltwise website, Salt Awareness Week is January 23rd to the 27th, and free training classes. There will be a free in-person class with the Middleton Cross Plains District staff, Bruce Company staff, etc., on Friday, January 20th. This 3-hour class will be geared toward winter maintenance workers. Excess salt should be swept up. You probably have heard that there's an ordinance now in Madison that if the salt is not swept up after a storm, that a fine can be levied. Maybe Middleton could think about doing a similar ordinance. Future applications should be made in accordance with the recommended rates for the pavement temperature. Free application calculator is available on the Saltwise website. So direct outreach opportunity, as Allison has done with Starkweather Creek and volunteers over there. Wednesday, January 25th from 2 to 4. She is proposing that volunteers from this committee, from the Friends of Pheasant Branch, and others that she can get together, go to Grace Coffee in Middleton. Allison will provide a brief primer on the problem and provide everyone with talking points. We'll then split up into pairs and visit businesses in Middleton where, 1, we see oversalting, 2, alternatively, if it's been a while since the last storm and salting event, we see evidence of past oversalting, such as spalling concrete, rusting doors, etc. Businesses with community boards where we can leave a small flyer, and retailers that sell salt, gas stations, hardware stores, etc., and leave pamphlets there. So the optional is on the flip side to meet back at Grace or Barrique's or Long Table somewhere for a second coffee or adult beverage, and then debrief on how the event went. So, so what she's asking is that volunteers help her out on Wednesday, January 25th from 2 to 4. So if you so desire to help out, why don't you just email me and I can collect who's coming and get it back to Allison when she returns from Europe. Any questions?
Thanks for summarizing.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well,
Oh,
we
by
will-
the way, there is, by the way, and I've been doing this, if you are in Middleton walking around, whatever, and you see oversalting, you can take a picture of it with your phone and then send it in to either Allison or on their Saltwise website, and then they'll further follow up on it. I have already sent her a couple of photos of that very thing. So it's another thing you can do.
Again, to the education, maybe some people just don't realize how bad it is. I think. Okay, moving on to number 6, operating budget for summer intern. Kelly, you want to explain?
Sure. We have, as you know, we have a number of projects happening, and the Sustainability Committee is the most active committee at the city. You all do a lot of events, and there's a lot of items that I feel like we can't get to, things maybe, you know, more in line with biodiversity, with outreach, education into the community for stormwater stuff, and the other sustainability items that I don't seem to have time to ever commit a lot of staff time to. And so I would really love to have a summer intern this summer to help. The summer that Sophia was here, we got, I feel like, a lot done. She helped us update all of our energy tracking, and she helped on a number of internal city things as well, and it was so super helpful. Abby's already had some applicants to the planning department who are planners to help with planning projects this summer. And so I had the idea to bring this item to the Sustainability Committee to potentially fund an intern for part-time work at the going summer intern rate, maybe 20 hours a week for anywhere from 8 to 10 weeks in the summer. And I know Daphne Wu mentioned she might be interested in a summer internship, and there's some others who have been interested in summer internships. So that could be potential way to use some of the operating budget. And I've talked to Brian Woolhopter, who's our human resources manager, and he said at a minimum, it would need to be approved through the sustainability committee and potentially other committees as well. I don't know if that'd be personnel or council or who would need to be involved. But I wanted to see what you thought about that. And I'll open it up for discussion.
Dick?
Yeah, you gave number hours and time link, but you didn't, by not giving us an hourly rate, you're not telling us how much of our committee
15.
budget. So what does that work out for? For
$3,000.
I think it could be between 2,000 and 3,000, depending on the amount, the longevity of that, or,
Yeah.
you know, you could do any number of, you know, you could reduce hours, or you couldn't reduce the pay, but you could reduce the
Yeah.
hours or longevity. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like the idea of giving you support, and interns are the way to do it. Plus it's educating a new generation of people. The fact that Daphne, who has been on our committee and was a real fire plug as far as getting stuff going, I really like the idea of interns like her helping you. If you know, $3,000 from our budget feels like a good expenditure. I don't think we're going to have any real expenditures for the parade this summer. So that would be money that we spent last year that we wouldn't spend this year. So I certainly would be in favor of the intern for you. The only thing is, you had interns in the past, but we didn't have to pay for them out of our committee. Is there not any other opportunity through the city and other funding ways besides tapping our budget? I'm just wondering.
We are right now, we're going to hire a short-term intern at for just 8 hours a week to help with outreach for the energy efficiency navigator program that's ARPA funded through the planning budgets. And then I feel I would like Abby to be able to spend the planning intern money on a planning intern as well. So I was just thinking about ways we could maximize having as many interns as possible helping with projects, because I think it's going to be such a busy summer.
Kermit?
One question, is that hourly rate set? Is that like kind of a city standard or benchmark? And I ask that because for good or for ill, in nonprofits I've been involved with, what we've recruited interns and retained them for less than that, because, you know, part of the pitch is you get this great educational experience. And I understand or appreciate the equity issues that trying to squeeze the price or the cost of intern labor. At the same time, I'm just wondering what are we looking at? So that's one question. If you have a quick answer, I have a couple other questions too, but.
I think the interns start at the city at 13, and then some departments pay up to 15 and no more than that. 15 is minimum wage. So my own personal feeling is that we should pay at least minimum wage, given we're trying to get people who probably are already in college. And I think minimum wage is, you know, with inflation these days and stuff, it doesn't go that far.
Right.
Anyway, so.
Okay, and I think it's a great idea in principle and would love to see practice work out. And one practical issue for the practice Dick already brought up is like, are there other pools of money or pots of money that can be tapped? I'm not ruling out contributing from the sustainability fund. At the same time, I think that's a relatively small pool to begin with, and we usually have something left by the end of the year, but we generally find meaningful things to do with it. So that's just a concern or hesitancy I have. The other thing is, because it's a good idea, why are we just limiting it to the summer? Is there basis for saying, hey, why don't we get a winter intern? You know, there are, I know that year-round interns are not impossible, and especially with the college campus or 2 or 3 in our own backyard here, it wouldn't be out of the question to have people who would be available and interested in such an opportunity.
I think summer is just an easier time to find folks who aren't maybe doing in school or have their jobs that they are in while they're in school.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
that's the main thing.
Yeah. And I just encourage us not to, I mean, the demands on your time are year round, the opportunities are year round. I think it would be worth, running that flag up the pole and seeing who might salute for other times of the year.
Okay,
Just
thank
a
you.
thought.
Okay, good thoughts. Dick, then Dominic.
Yeah, I just want to follow up. So if the salary is 3,000, do we pay fringe and overhead and all that? So I just want to make sure we understand what the cost is, because if you got to pay, you got to pay the income tax and the Social Security match and that stuff. So are we truly talking 3,000? 15 an hour times 20 times 10. I just want to make sure we know what the cost is actually because of the other fringe and overhead. But I do like the idea. We have had some issues of spending our money in other years. And like I mentioned, I don't think we have any big plans for this summer. We're buying $2,000 of bags. Deb will tell us later that the LED program is over, so we're not going to be buying more light bulbs. Hopefully we won't have to buy as many t-shirts for the parade. So I think we have money that we have spent in the past that we probably wouldn't this year. So I'm not against spending $3,000. I just want to make sure that we're not thinking it's 3, but we end up paying 4,500 or something just because of fringe and overhead and all that.
I think you could decide to allocate up to a certain dollar amount, and then what we get with that is what we get with that. So, you could say, I want to cap it at 2,500 or 2,000. And then if the city wanted an intern for an extra couple weeks, maybe that money could come out of the planning intern budget. It's really just, something the committee could decide on a dollar amount.
Yeah, I don't want us to cut it too short, because I like the idea of having a person around long enough that they can really do some work. And somebody like Daphne, who we have total experience with, she is a dynamo. And if we had her for 10, 12 weeks, we would get some great work done. So I am not against it at all. I just, in fact, I'm in favor of it. So.
Okay, thank you. Good feedback. Dominic, then Deb.
I just want to similarly voice my support for the idea. I think I would support approving some number of dollars from our budget to go towards a sustainability intern in the planning department. And I want to offer a very brief rationale for that. And then I want to ask one question, Kelly, as well. So the rationale is that my sense has been historically that we don't lack for ideas. We lack for availability of people hours to push these ideas through. And so if we're looking at how we're going to best leverage our budget, I think spending that money on creating more ideas or diluting our resources might not be as high a leverage expense as spending that money on hours and people to deliver the ideas that we have in the pipeline. And to that end, the question for you, Kelly, is Beyond the intern that we're discussing, are there any interns in other departments who might be available for projects? Say the Public Works Department, do they have any interns coming who might be interested in working on sustainability related projects in the Public Works Department?
I'm not sure if they have interns. I mean, the planning department will have an intern, and in the past I have even gotten some hours just here and there by just standing up and leaning over and asking the city administrator's intern if they can do some research for me. And that's been incredibly helpful. Even 4 hours here and there from an intern can do the research that I just never seem to get to look things up and really read reports and stuff. So there are like hours here and there that I can glean. But it would be nice to have a dedicated person who had, 3 projects that they could just run with over the summer and that kind of thing. I don't know about Public Works. That's a good question.
Okay, Deb?
I'm also in favor of having an intern and getting additional work done. We being the Friends of Pheasant Branch, have interns in the summer to do restoration management, and they're interns from colleges, they get a stipend. So they're not an employee of the Friends. Actually, it's kind of, we do it through a partnership, and they're only at the Conservancy once a week, and they're at other properties on the other days. But the point is, they're getting a stipend. And you only have to pay all those extra costs that Dick was talking about if the person is an employee. So, or you could contract it out.
Yep. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Kermit, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going, the comments Deb was making jogged my memory regarding programs that are out there that will provide funding for internships. And in particular, I'm recalling Edgewood College had a program where they had funds to support placement of low income or typically underrepresented people to work with. At the time, I was working or aware of it in the context of nonprofits, but I think a municipality might well qualify. And so as far as options to pursue that might help keep it affordable or multiply our impact by giving other people a chance, that sort of project or program is out there. And again, Edgewood College is one in particular that I recall was operating at least up through a year or two ago.
It's a good point. Yeah. Okay, well, it sounds like we would have a motion. The question that I see is, do we just want to approve an intern, or do we want to approve a certain amount? And that's up to all of you.
I would recommend a dollar amount to prevent us from revisiting this topic at a future date.
That's what
Okay,
I agree with that. I would have said a dollar amount also.
okay, so does anyone have a motion with a dollar amount?
Okay, just a quick question. Kelly, do you have an idea what you are wanting?
I mean, I guess 20 hours for 10 weeks would be great at $15 an hour. I think that's 3,000. But if it was 8 weeks, that would also work, because I think sometimes college students aren't available for, up for maybe 10 weeks. So it may just be that it's easier to do it with fewer weeks.
I make a motion that we spend up to $3,000 of our sustainability committee budget to finance, to pay for an intern for the summer to be under the direction of Kelly.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Looks like we have several seconds. So let's, all in favor?
Aye.
Favor?
Wait,
Aye.
I was going to
Okay.
offer a friendly amendment
Okay,
and
sorry,
eliminate.
Kermit,
summer.
I didn't see that. If you had your hand up, I missed that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to offer a friendly amendment and essentially ask to remove summer from the proposal. It's like, if you can find somebody in the spring, I don't want us to limit the flexibility that I think we actually could have, or Kelly could have there. So that's, I agree with everything else. I'm just saying, let's not limit it to just summer if we don't need to.
I'm willing to accept the friendly amendment from my motion.
Okay, do we have a second with the friendly amendment?
I'll second it.
Okay, okay, all in favor of the motion with the friendly amendment? Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
great. Thank you. Okay,
you.
moving on to work initiatives. Andrea, you're up first. We're so excited to hear from you.
Okay. So for the school wise, I was, or so the both the presidents. were
Andrea,
pretty
would you,
busy.
is, it might be a little bit soft. Could you?
Yeah.
1 second. Is this better?
uh,
Nope. Okay, let me try something else. Okay,
There you go.
good. Okay. Okay, cool.
Much better.
Great. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the school. I have updates on the composter as well. So for school-wise, both the presidents have been busy, and we had a snow day on our meeting last week for the green team. So we haven't had many meetings this month, but they're working. So I wrote a few things down. So they've been working on a plastic film competition, which there's been a certain committee for that. So they're just working on that up till spring. And then around the school, there are clothing and marker drives happening, just collecting them. That's been happening. Pretty much that's all the updates I have for this month in addition to last month's green team activities. And then for the composter that we were talking about last time, so I sent an email to the MATC culinary department, which is where the composter is being housed. And so he actually got back to me this morning after a long time email. So he proposed a tour he was specifically me, but I asked him if we could tour sometime in the second week of January around that time for all the committee members, whoever can make it, and we can just tour the composter and see what condition it's in. But as of now, it seems to be working well. So that's the composter update I have.
And when you say committee members, do you mean, I'm assuming you mean the Middleton High School
Oh,
Green?
yes.
Team? Okay.
Or no. Sorry, I meant our committee, but we can. I meant specifically our committee.
Okay.
But also including the green team members.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, those are your updates? Any more?
Yes. No, I do not have any more for this.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. Those are so helpful. All right, any questions for Shreya? No.
I had a question for
Oh,
Shreya.
I'm sorry, Laura. It's like your hand there it matches your wall a little bit.
I'm gonna have to make it dark.
I know.
And this is, I wasn't able to make the last committee meeting, but how, do we have a price on like how much that composter is?
Not yet. So last time I think we discussed like researching and looking into it more before we like go in and propose to the school board. So I think that's what we were first talking about if the composter was in a good condition because we were all debating that last time. But now that we know it's in good condition, I think our first step would be a tour and then we would discuss the prices after that.
Okay, so just kind of reading the notes and that update from the last meeting,
Mhm.
some people talked about making a business case for it, which I think is an excellent idea.
Yes.
Another question I thought about, not knowing how much it costs and where those funds would come from, would be almost, since we're talking about writing, making a business case for it, maybe even finding a local business that might sponsor you
Sponsor,
or
yeah.
help you, help you write the case, give a little money, something
Yeah.
like that. I don't know if there are any other teams at school that if they have like a business club, or if we could help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he just got back to me this morning. So I just found out about that it's in good condition this morning. So I was waiting for that, to start looking about other things around there. So I was thinking about after the tour, we would get like more like facts and information, and using that I could, get some more sponsors or even local businesses that might be able to, spare some money for the composter. And then I think, which we'd also be presenting to the school board now that we know the condition of the composter. So we could also ask them for money, which I'm sure they can spare. But yeah.
Okay, good. I was just wondering about that. All right, thanks.
Okay, excellent update. Next, we will go, oh, I'm sorry, Deb.
Last meeting, we had passed a motion to have a letter in support of the composter. Whatever happened with that?
I thought we were waiting to figure out the condition of the composter before we would make our letter, so I could put the facts in once we see. So I got that today. So once I get the tour information, I'll make sure to send that out to everybody and whoever can make it. And then after we look at that, then I will draft our letter and then I can send it out to everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, Deb. Go ahead, Kelly.
I was just saying, I can add in I can add to that letter that this committee made that motion and that we support your efforts, and then you can add that to, any data you get maybe to submit together.
Sure,
so that we
thank
can
you.
support you.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Okay, Dominic, we've been waiting to hear from you about the Falca update.
Yeah. So I think that this is kind of split into several different fronts. And actually, Kelly's bullet point 1 from her staff report does a really good job of summarizing where we're at. I've been working pretty closely with Kelly on this. There is a team, Kermit, Bob, Kevin, and then Dean, some citizens, as well as a couple committee members, have been working on the Falca component of that effort for quite some time. That's, again, is a tool. It's a life cycle analysis tool. And where that tool is at is it's fully developed within our team, and we're waiting for feedback from Slipstream to provide an estimate for their review of the tool, potentially recommended changes to the tool, and ultimately, validation and their stamp of approval. That's kind of where we're going with that. I think Kelly had shared several months ago that there may be interest from other municipalities in using that tool as well. And so Kelly currently, as far as I'm aware, has that tool in her possession, and she's working with those 3 groups, Slipstream and then other local municipalities, to take that tool and move it into a validated status. So if there are questions on that, please let me know. I'll move on to kind of 2 related topics then, both of which Kelly has commented on. An EV charging, just conversations, and then conversations around biodiesel as well. So one of the reasons that we pivoted slightly from the Falca tool with this extra time that we've had while we're waiting for Slipstream and others is that during these early conversations, we've realized that we don't necessarily have the infrastructure for some of these sustainable options to be added to our fleet. There are currently no dedicated electric chargers at the Middleton Operations Center for an electric vehicle, as one example. And we don't really have any convenient way to fuel an asset with biodiesel, as one example, as well. So we've been working on those 2 questions, or trying to pave the path to those assets as well. Kelly, of course, has pulled in the EV charging infrastructure. She's running ahead with that. Been looking for opportunities to support her. And then in parallel, we have had some good conversations with Public Works around biodiesel for heavier assets such as like snowplows. And we had a meeting scheduled with Optimus. They are a company who fabricates a particular biodiesel conversion kit that can be bolted on to existing equipment and allow them to run biodiesel. They also provide above ground storage tanks for biodiesel, and they help facilitate kind of the pilot of introducing biodiesel into your fleet. They're a wonderful resource in terms of educating the full ecosystem from users to mechanics and managers as well about how to bring that in. I'll just briefly note that biodiesel for those large fleet assets, according to some calculations, is a more effective decarbonization strategy than even electrification of large trucks. Biodiesel that's sourced locally will drop the carbon emissions by about 80% versus diesel today. It's a very big deal. So we had that meeting scheduled with Optimus for last week for the same day as our snow event. So appropriately, all of our snowplow drivers, including Brad, were out keeping us safe from snow and ice. So we need to reschedule that meeting, but we are looking to do that. In addition, after our meeting, public works representatives have been reaching out to the city of Madison, who has leveraged the Optimus system broadly through their fleet as well. So we're looking to learn from them, not only from their fleet manager, Mahant, but also from operators and mechanics in the city of Madison's team as well. So we're going to continue pushing on biodiesel as well as electric education and options.
Dick.
Kelly, did I miss anything? Sorry, Dick.
Kelly, you're going to respond to.
Oh, I know, I think you did a great job summarizing what's going on.
Yeah, on the biodiesel, where is the source of the biodiesel? Is that fairly in Dane County kind of thing? I mean, what's the supply issue of providing the biodiesel?
It's just not necessarily in providing it, it's in storing it. So currently, Madison sources their biodiesel from a plant in DeForest that uses a variety of feed stocks to synthesize biodiesel. I know that they can use soybean products, animal fats, spent, vegetable oil, these sorts of things to turn that into biodiesel. So that is where Madison's getting it. That's where we would likely be getting ours as well. Likely, these are all assumptions at this point.
So basically, there is a reliable source that we could be able to get this from if we get this conversion systems. So your meetings, you were trying to find out, okay, you've got a company that can provide the kits that would, be applied to various trucks, maybe one or two at a time, and then have a way of storing it. And you have a reliable source that once you convert over, you want to be able to keep it going. So it sounds like you've got things working all in a good direction. This is fantastic, Dominic.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you. Good conversations for sure. I think we're a long ways to go. These are not inexpensive kits. And biodiesel is very much not diesel. You can burn it in a diesel engine. However, it behaves very differently. And if used improperly, you can cause problems with the drivetrain. That's one of the reasons that I think this hasn't been pursued as aggressively in the past. Some bad experiences from perhaps early attempts at introduction have caused maintenance issues. This Optimus vector system is really well engineered to avoid a lot of those challenges. And I think that it just from the literature so far, our public works team have I wouldn't say enthusiasm, but they seem impressed with how well it's thought through. So yes, we're going to continue to kind of support them in their education, educate ourselves as well. Here's hoping we can get a pilot project started.
Fabulous.
Yeah, I mean, pilot projects are really how we move everything forward. If you can go small and show that it works and you build confidence among those people that have to use it, then it can go really fast. So what time frame are you looking for besides this meeting to really take it to the pilot phase? Is that your ultimate goal, and have it done by, say, summer? How much money does it cost to buy these kits?
Well, I think that's one of the questions we'd like to have addressed during that meeting. So I think that there's first just creating an openness and a willingness to support a pilot program among our public works teammates. If we do get kind of their buy-in, then certainly putting pencil to paper on the cost and then securing funds. I believe round numbers, don't quote me on this. The number that I have lodged in the back of my head from some work that Kevin Spittler had done earlier was round numbers $25K per conversion kit. And that's per asset. That's not including bringing on an above ground storage tank and the jacketing, et cetera, that would be needed to fuel locally or kind of on site. We believe that it should be possible, but I would imagine that there are costs associated with that as well. And certainly we would want to have some conversations with this facility in DeForest to ensure that they would have supply to keep, to keep our trucks running, basically. So yes, in terms of timeline, Dick, I'd love to have these meetings through the winter and have some semblance of a proposal in the spring. And then it would be, how much money do we need and where do we get it for a pilot program? That would be the critical path in my assessment.
Nice. Okay. Thank you so much, Dominic. Super helpful. And I apologize that's been kind of pushed back a couple meetings, but we're very happy to hear from you. Okay. So let's move on now to the Sustainable Middleton Award update.
So we're live. We have one nomination so far. Standard Imaging is a self-nomination. We're on the agenda for Get Moving Middleton, which is the Chamber of Commerce breakfast, where we're going to, in April, early, I don't remember the date, but it was very early April, where we would award the businesses that had won. And we're thinking of doing the other individual as well as the nonprofit awards at the Common Council meeting in April, one of them in April. We're working on the plaques, and I think we talked about that last month, so probably no news there. They're looking to get sustainable materials to make the plaques. So we'll hopefully in January, we'll be looking at those and making some decisions. So, and the school district, like the green team, Sharia, would be a great nomination for this award. We have all sorts of categories like environmental education, because I know you had said that the green team is going out to the elementary schools and educating kids about it. And so anyway, the green team should think about this. I'll leave it at that. Dick, do you have anything to add?
Kelly, don't put in the minutes who already applied, okay?
Oh, all right, sorry.
Yeah, Deb mentioned that, but you can put in, we've had one nomination. So we've put out through the newspaper. Did we find out that our alders have sent out through their networks yet, Deb? Because you were gonna talk to Lisa and see if she couldn't convince the other alders to, because each alder has a way of communicating with their people in their own particular zone.
Is Lisa on the meeting
Not on
tonight?
tonight. No.
Oh, she's not. Well, okay, I emailed her and she said that she would email the other alders, and she was going to, District 6 always gets updates, monthly updates from Lisa, and she was going to send that out with our news on the award to District 6. So she would send it out to other alders. The Chamber of Commerce is going to be sending out, I think, 3 different information blasts to businesses, to their members, advertising the award. It was in the Middleton Times this past week.
I think the Chamber of Commerce from Kelly, you were instrumental in trying to get the communication going with them. It sounds like they are quite supportive of the award, so I think that would be important. We're wanting to use them for the business nominees and using their April venue for giving out the awards, although we just found out, or Deb just found out, that we're only limited to 5 minutes on their agenda. They don't want to give us even more than that. So we may have to get creative about doing it outside the chamber event. They would just announce it as kind of a group thing, and then we'll have to figure out how we do the photos and all that for the newspaper and stuff. But I'd say things are moving ahead on the award, and the fact that we got 1 nomination already, at least somebody's aware of it. Hopefully private owners will see the announcement, because there's certainly many homes that have done things like putting solar panels on and whatever. So hopefully we'll have quite a few nominations. Our $50 award, I'm sorry, $50 gift along with the certificate will need to come out of our committee, but I can't imagine that we're going to have maybe more than 10 awards there. So, but with the plaques and cost, and we do get a discount if we order a bunch of plaques ahead rather than just 2 or 3. So we could easily spend $1,000, $1,500 on this award this year, but we don't have any idea yet. But we will be coming back to the committee with the budget numbers, just so we're aware that the cost will have to come out of our committee budget.
Thank you. It's 8:17. I would like to move, if it's okay with everyone, I'd like to move on to the Monarch Pledge. And then the Bird City, and if we have time for LED bulb initiative. Sustainable U, Lisa's not here. I don't think we have anything on that today. But I definitely want to leave time today for the standing agenda items. So and finish at 8:30 sharp at the latest. So Monarch Pledge, who handles that one?
That was Lisa Hanairo's
Oh,
request.
that was Lisa too. Okay. I couldn't remember. Okay. And Bird City?
And the only thing I'd say about Bird City is that it's now due the end of January. And so I'm hoping to have a meeting with Public Lands. And then it would be really helpful if we could get someone from Friends of Pheasant Branch Conservancy, or someone who knows what's going on, maybe someone from the CLC committee, like is it Janet Kane maybe, or someone. She usually gives me information for that Bird City renewal. I would just like to sit down and do it together. It takes many hours if you do it by yourself. It's a very substantial application process, and so I'm hoping we can standardize that and maybe pass that back to the Public Lands Department. They've had turnover there recently, so they don't maybe have the capacity next month, but they would for at least a sit-down meeting, I think, about it. So I'll reach out about that.
Okay. Thank
I'll
you.
help you on it.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Okay. LED bulb initiative update.
There's no updates at this point, other than the program is now finished. So we will not be getting any more LEDs.
Okay. That's an update. Thank you.
I'll just add that we have a supply of bulbs, mostly 75s, but some 100s and some 40s that are stored over at the recycling center. And the idea is to piggyback this with the energy efficiency and low income housing. So as soon as that program gets going, so we know who is eligible or who are possible candidates, and we will put some kind of letter that we would write explaining our LED program into the communications that go out to those. So we're basically on hold until that program gets off the ground.
Okay. All right, Kermit?
And a quick clarification then, Deb or Dick. Deb, you said the program is finished. Are you referring to the Focus on Energy discount program? Or are you just
National-
talking about
the
our
national-
program?
The national LED program where we were getting the 25-cent
Got it.
bulbs. They have discontinued that. I did recycle the traded LEDs, well, not LEDs, the CFLs. I took those over to PKK, which I told Kelly, and that was around $125 and some odd cents or whatever.
But that's out of this current year's budget, I think.
Correct.
Yeah.
This year, yeah.
Okay, and so basically, we could conceivably continue to do our local program, but we would not be getting the discounted rates, so the money would not go as far. Is that your thinking, or are you thinking it's going to be too expensive, we just should discontinue because we don't have that subsidy?
I would say, Kermit, let's use the bulbs we've got in a creative way, working with this, because they were meant to go to low-income housing units. So let's move forward on that. And if we find like we have a lot of demand for more bulbs and we got money left at the end of the year or whatever, we could buy them at standard rates. But yeah, we're not going to get them at 25 cents a bulb, for at least what we know.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Next, let's just move quick to, do we have anything for Earth? You have Earth Day placeholder, Kelly?
Yeah, I just had one thing to say. St. Bernard's Church, Ben Roden, who's the head of their green team there, reached out to me, and they're going to be doing an Earth Day event in April, and they wondered if there was anything we'd like to partner on with them for that. They asked if we were doing our LED bulb exchange. He said, no pressure, they're not expecting anything, but that they would definitely be happy to do another LED light bulb exchange after Mass there or at that Earth Day event. So I said I would check with the committee to see if there's any extra bulbs that, I don't think that they gave away so many bulbs there when they did it last time, but it was I like to work with those community groups and people who are already have green teams, because I just feel like it accelerates sustainability in the community, and they've always been a really good partner with our committee. They've reached out many times to help or to do joint programs, so that's something we could think about. There's no he doesn't need to know any answers right now, but I wanted to just put that on the table.
Well, the thing is, we don't know if we're going to have anything extra because we don't know how many we're going to need for this other deal. And I don't know how soon you're going to have anybody in line that you've selected.
Yeah, and the other thing is that we have Mom as a backup too, to get rid of some bulbs if at the end we decide we don't have any way to use them. I would, along with Deb, I would not want to commit us to giving any bulbs to them, because if we get short and then we really need them for a good program with these low income housing, which was the original purpose of what we were doing this year, I wouldn't want to diminish our fairly limited stockpile. So I would say my gut reaction, I don't know, Deb, what you're on it and what the committee feels, but I would not want to promise light bulbs to them.
I agree.
Okay. And then the last thing I wanted to say about the LED is that I talked to the Focus on Energy community liaison, and he said, although they discontinued the program, generally, he said they are still providing that program and the bulbs to food pantries. So Mom would qualify for that program themselves.
Good to know.
Is that something that Mom can apply for themselves, or do we need to be an intermediary, or how does that work?
I don't think we'd need to be an intermediary. I can see, what's required to get the bulbs to Mom from Focus, but that's really between Focus and Mom, I think. But I can ask, because I know the Focus on Energy folks.
I think that would be good. I mean, it seems like that's one way of getting it into the community, that if they're coming for food, they need help. And if they can use light bulbs, then let's have them available. So I think, and particularly if Focus on Energy is willing to work with mom, then any way we could facilitate it would seem like it'd be a good idea.
Great. Okay, well, 5 minutes. Let's do the standing agenda item. Anybody have January agenda suggestion? Oh, Kermit, I didn't mean to keep missing you. You're on mute too.
There we go. There is background noise here. Anyways, this might be a segue item for the agenda, but the Earth Day placeholder, I think there is further discussion that we might want to carry over as far as, do we want to spearhead and or partner with anything else that might be happening in April as a sustainability committee? You know, not just the question of light bulbs for St. Bernard's Green Team, but other possibilities that we either could make happen or we could find out are already happening and, you know, somehow partner. So I just want to, so I think let's call that a standing agenda item itself to kind of carry that discussion forward and keep our eyes and ears open for possibilities that might be developing.
Perfect. Scott, if you have any ideas for next month, you know, for Earth Day that you're thinking, let us know. We're out of time today, unless it's really, really quick, but definitely next month. If you have anything, please bring it forward.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So what other agenda items would people like to see on for January?
Well, I think the sustainable purchasing policy thing ought to be an agenda item to get an update on that. And I think we've also got the post meeting, after the meeting, about the street lights. That seems like that's an agenda item, and maybe we need somebody to come here, even from MG&E, and put their feet a little bit to the fire on that. But
That's actually not a bad idea. Invite them to come to this meeting. Yeah. Q&A. I like that one, actually. We're not going to attack them, but it's just a way, like you say, to kind of hold more accountability here.
and Dominic, are you going to have the biodiesel meeting before January 2? I mean, these are mostly updates. I don't know if they're staff updates, but you would have to decide if they warrant a more extensive discussion. So it feels like we've talked about a lot of stuff, meetings coming on, and whether we have more extensive discussion about them would depend on how things evolve, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to commit to an agenda item there, just because this Optimus, the most significant item is Optimus, and they're in Pennsylvania. They were opportunistically here meeting with Madison when we grabbed a meeting with them last week. So here's hoping they can come out again very quickly. We might have to move to something virtual. I'd be happy to have a placeholder there and communicate directly with Kelly and Christy if I am able to, if we are as a team able to make a little bit more progress on that front. We'd love to share that progress.
Okay.
Well, if we're taking a tour of Madison College's composter, there would be an update there. I mean, if we're doing that before the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw Rick's comment in the chat, but I think he's really made it even more closing an idea that would be, I'm reading, would be great to have MG&E provide a summary of the streetlights that they're billing to the city. Middleton, have them transparently describe why they charge more for LED streetlights versus high pressure sodium streetlights. So I think having, you know, if we could get a real discussion about that and get maybe Dane County after this meeting to come in and talk about how can we generate a a community-wide or a county-wide response on this. I think we could have a big discussion on this if all parties are willing.
Dominic?
This is a bit of a tangent, but Kelly, I seem to recall several months ago, we reviewed development plans. And I don't recall the name of the two developments, but there was a very large development in the pipeline, kind of parallel to the Pheasant Branch Conservancy. I'm not sure what's going on with that. And I'm not sure what value we can add here, but I do recall Dick and Deb having a lot of very valid feedback for that developer. And certainly their plans affect that whole watershed. So if that just flashed in my memory, I don't know if that's relevant or not.
I think it's relevant, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, it is 8:30 and it is the holidays. Happy holidays, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a great holiday season and see you in the new year. A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
No, I'm
Second.
not motion. Yeah, I need a motion. Okay, you're the motion. We have Kermit second. All in favor of adjourning? Yes, okay.
Okay, yes.
I
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay,
Happy
thank you,
holidays, everyone.
Happy
everyone.
holidays to everybody.
Happy
Yeah.
holidays.
Merry
Happy
Christmas,
holidays,
Happy
thank
New
you.
Year,
Bye.
and everything else in
Bye.
between.
Bye.